This podcast is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online, the fastest, easiest, safest way to bet on all things sports. With March Madness, the Masters, Major League opening day right around the corner, Bet Online has all the latest news, the scores, the odds to help you win big. And the best part, you'll receive a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. So head over to betonline.ag, use our promo code BlueWire to receive your literal free money. Plus, signing up is a great way to support the podcast you're listening to right now. Again, promo code BlueWire, all one word, when you sign up at betonline.ag. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia.
And welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Knicks Wall podcast. We are back. We're better than ever. I've got with me today just one of the crew, Mike Cortez at Cortez Era. What is going on, dude?
What's up, man? Pretty refreshed. This All-Star break was much needed.
Yeah, it was much needed. Like, it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air going into some of the games this week. It's definitely was getting a little bit stagnant, but we got things to look forward to. It was good to watch some All-Star basketball in the meantime. Didn't make it to any of the events out here in Chicago. Did not get to go see my friend Kyle Maggio at any point. So bummers all around there, but the dunk contest was rad. Saturday night was real cool. Fun All-Star break.
Yeah, RJ had a good game too. So that's
RJ had a good game. Yep. So before we get into everything, of course, we're part of the Blue Wire podcast family. Go check out our sponsor, betonline.ag. Head to Twitter, give us a follow. I'm Anthony Corbo at Corbo Anthony. You can follow Mike at Cortez Era, the Knicks Wall at the Knicks Wall, at TKW Podcast, all of those good places. And while you're at that too, head to theknickswall.com, where our fabulous writing staff, which includes Mike Cortez, are constantly keeping you up to date on what we need to know to get through the end of the season. And the first little bit of news here that we got coming up, and there's not too much for this week, but the first little bit of news that we got going on is we finally have the official start date for one Leon Rose, the soon-to-be president of basketball operations for these New York Knicks. March 1st is the day. He was part of the Dwayne Wade festivities, which kept him held up over the last couple of weeks and everything like that. So now that that's over with, Wade set his 3-day retirement tour, all that good stuff. Leon Rose is set to begin his presidency, and I don't know if we reported it, if it was talked about in this pod at all, that Worldwide West is not expected to join in any capacity, but we still have the agent Leon Rose. Lots of decisions to be made from here. Do you envision anything kind of drastic happening with Leon Rose, right away in March when he comes to the table, or you think it's going to be kind of all the same for the rest of the season?
I hope there's some change quickly. One quick note on Worldwide West. He is still reported to be involved with the team, which I think is better. The fact that
it's not official title.
Right, yeah, because now he can loom. He could be like a little Master of Whispers type role for the Knicks, which is much needed. Because, as we know, our public relations isn't exactly the best with players, evidenced by the free agent classes
debacle
put together. Yeah. So it's just the fact that we can get that is good enough. And then, but more for Rose, I'm more concerned about the GM role. I heard Bagley tweeted or was on a podcast and said Perry's expected to remain with the team, and Allen Houston is projected to get a promotion. So one of those two guys might be the general manager in that event. I don't know how I feel about that. I want change. I know they were going after Rich Cho from Memphis. That would have been something be worth getting excited over, but I just want to see some results of some sort. I'm tired of just I feel like we're in purgatory right now.
Yeah, I don't so much mind I don't know if I would mind so much seeing Allen Houston is probably a different story. I don't know if I would mind so much seeing Scott Perry remain the GM. I would probably prefer him. I'm fine with Scott Perry being in the organization. I think he's a smart guy. I think that maybe he's in a little bit too far over his head right now, but I'm still a little bit more inclined to believe that I'm going to put more of the fall on Steve Mills in this situation. Maybe it's because he's an easy scapegoat and he's already out, and that is what it is. But I do think that it'd be interesting to see if Scott Perry reacts any differently with a different boss, essentially, with a different kind of playbook and a different way that he can set the stage here. I'm inclined to believe that. I'm inclined to give him a shot on that. I think that that's certainly a possibility. Allen Houston, I don't understand what that role could really be, because he just seems a little too green for that, and it just really seems like another Knicks nostalgia hire. But something about Perry, I'm willing to consider him for a period of time in that GM role. But I mean, I do think that probably the best move here is just starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's probably the main reason I don't want Perry fired. I wouldn't mind if he stays around. Players,
I'm fine with him being with the team.
Players seem to like him. Like, I know Elfrid Payton's very loyal to him, and I'm sure he's not the only one. I know Hazonia came to New York because of Perry, so he clearly gets through to the players, which shouldn't be undersold, especially for a front office that had a reputation of lying to players. Like, we had the whole Porzingis fallout. So that's another thing that we want to keep players happy. So maybe they find a cushy job for him. Houston, glass full that I'm going with right now is the G League's been the only good thing in the organization for the past 5 years, and he was the GM of the G League team. So maybe he's not stupid. He certainly knows what a bad contract would look like. So that's always a plus.
Yeah. I mean, God damn it. It's really funny to think about that contract. Like, you take a look at it, and it's a contract that I don't think would feel very out of place in today's market. It's like maybe that that contract is something that could be, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, someone would have of his level would have actually signed it. But like, when you consider the time when he actually signed the contract and just what a colossal overpay that actually ended up being, it's just fascinating. But I mean, beyond the GM position, I mean, the biggest decision that I think that Leon Rose is going to have to make here is the head coach. Mike Miller's done a fine job, I'd say, for over the course of the season, and he hasn't tried. I don't think he's tried too many new things, but he's at least not trying just like boneheaded things like Fizdale was doing. I think that's kind of fair to say. He's at least like going with what works to a certain degree, to a degree of what you can get out of this roster, but. But it seems like it's a consensus move here, and just, from what Steve Stout was saying on TV not too long ago, is the Knicks are going to do a pretty good head coaching search here. And there's only really one name. There's a couple of names, but one name is really kind of stuck out from the mix so far. Who has been, it's been reported around a little bit. It's come up more than a few times. It's a name that's been floated over the course of years that we've had a head coaching search, but. Tom Thibodeau is most certainly seems like he's going to be considered for the head coaching job. And there's been a varying amount of percentages as to how likely that actually is. But at least in some capacity, it seems like Tom Thibodeau is going to be considered for this job. And that seems like he would bring a very stark difference to this team than what we currently have.
Torn on this because I do want a progressive coach like Dave Joger. I'm butchering his name. The guy that coached the Grizzlies and Kings. That's who I want. Someone like that.
Yeah, Jaeger, like the drink.
Jaeger. I'm sorry. There we go. Jaeger. Yeah, I want someone like Dave Jaeger. But if it's down to Thibodeau or Mark Jackson, I'm taking Thibodeau 10 times out of 10. And the Minnesota tour was bad. I think just the GM head coach mix never works unless you're a mad genius like Bill Belichick, or that's pretty much the only one person it works for. But I don't know. I'm just so split. He was not like the Timberwolves weren't really good on defense, but my thinking is you can't really be bad with Mitch and Frank as your base point. Then you have RJ and whoever they draft. I feel like Thibodeau could at least get this team watchable again, for sure.
It does seem like especially if Frank's going to be around, and with what Mitch is already bringing to the table and everything, and he's obviously in the long-term plans, but it does seem like Tom Thibodeau would be able to make something happen with those guys for sure. And you'd probably see, I would think, some defensive improvements out of Dotson. I would think that maybe he would get on the court a little bit more. I don't think Trier is still on the team after the season, so I don't really think anything about him in that case. But it seems like in that case, the Knicks this summer with the cap space that they have, and obviously the lack of free agent talent that's going to be on the market, it seems like he could come in. The front office works with him to sign a couple of defensive-minded guys. And he's able to make a decent run next year, or maybe we get close to the 8th seed or something like that, instead of just being sheer embarrassment. I could see that, and then maybe the players do respect him enough out there to want to sign on after that, and then maybe I don't doubt that Tom Thibodeau could get this team to be a playoff team again. I mean, he did do that with Minnesota,
right?
But I don't know where that ceiling is, and I don't know if that will be at all detrimental to the long-term growth of these players.
Right, and the one thing that people should remember is that Wolves team, it seemed to be like there were a bunch of jackasses there, because Towns, until D'Angelo got there, and they're still not winning much, but Towns doesn't seem like he was doing much to change stuff anyway. And once Jimmy Butler left, that team kind of nosedived. So I feel like that whole locker room was a little funky. And then the fact that Thibodeau was also the GM, it just was a bad mix. He was great in Chicago. I think running people into the ground, we already saw that with Fizdale, so how much worse can it get?
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, if they do bring Thibodeau in, which that's been the only person reported over the last week, just please bring an offensive-minded assistant head coach. Just have an offensive coordinator, because I can't watch half-court offense anymore. It's just brutal to watch.
Yeah, that is really, I think, where the big struggles come in. But there are certainly more. I mean, you see this all the time with coaches in any sport. You see it in hockey all the time, where you have an assistant coach there, an associate head coach there is there just to drop defensive plays or penalty kill plays. You have this in basketball too, where guys are defensive geniuses, and you have guys who are offensive geniuses, and the head coach takes that load off of their shoulders and essentially hands it off. And I mean, they have a say in it, but they're going to let the experts do the work here. And that's what you need behind Thibodeau. Whatever his job is going to be, to get these guys working, to motivate them, and then to, keep the defense consistent. And I think you have a really good point about him being just in a bad situation in Minnesota. It's I understand that he didn't do himself any favors there, but he was in over his head as the president and the coach for sure. And then also the players just were not, other than Jimmy Butler, it was just not the right mix of personnel there. And, Butler was gone pretty soon from there and everything. So I do think that he doesn't get dealt an entirely fair hand when it's talked about how bad of a situation that was on all fronts in Minnesota. But I mean, he did contribute to his own demise in that sense. And hopefully he's different. He's learned about that from here.
And I know he's on the USA coaching staff. I don't know if he still is. So he does have a tie to the elite of the league. And maybe just he comes across as a basketball junkie. So maybe just less bureaucracy as a front office guy and more nuts and bolts type of stuff. Maybe that's the key to it. And on that coordinator thing that you were just talking about, he was the defensive coordinator essentially for Boston under Doc Rivers. So if anyone knows how good that can work, it's Thibodeau himself. So,
right, and then we also have the token Knicks nostalgia hire part of it in here too, where you get the he was on Van Gundy's staff.
Yeah,
right?
he was on. Yeah, he was. I believe he was also. I can't remember. I think he was definitely in the 90s as well, but he was 100% underneath Van Gundy's thing. But if we're doing legacy hires, that's another thing. He's the best possible nostalgia hire too, if you're going to go that route.
Right. Which is a consideration.
Yeah,
for them.
always.
Whether it ends up being the thing that wins out or not, it's always a consideration.
Yeah, and it's not just a Knicks thing. We just blow it up because it is. But anytime you get like a former player that could coach a team, it's always just like, oh, he played for us, so he has to be kind of good. Like J.K. with the Nets was a classic one.
Oh my God, that was so good. I mean, God damn it. All right, so we have the whole Thibodeau thing. Yeah, we're gonna have to see where it goes from here, and yeah, I'd like to see what other names get into the ring. I mean, you mentioned Dave Yeager before. I think he would be an interesting, one to take a look at in here.
Calipari was also mentioned. I do not want.
Yeah.
As a Kentucky fan, I feel like he was a disaster in college and big games, so I just don't want Calipari anywhere near this team. I like him.
I mean, John Beeline's available right now too.
Yeah, I'm good on that too. How long did he last? Like what? 2 minutes? Come on, he had like
let's see. He must have been hired around August or so, July or August, and he made it to February.
Yeah,
so,
and he struggled to get that because that was just report after report. It's like, yeah, he's considering leaving. All right, they're really trying to get them out of here. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah,
the honeymoon phase lasts until about like October 15th. But anyway, so I mean that's really the big news to come out of this week. The other thing to talk about here is, kind of bizarrely this morning, RJ Barrett mentioned that he's predominantly right-handed but shoots lefty. That's a little bit more common than I think people are making it out right now.
Yeah, he said it on First Take during his pre-draft workout or pre-draft, interviews rather. So this isn't news. It's just Ben Simmons does this too. So I don't know if it's a defense mechanism to say like, oh, by the way, I can shoot with my right hand. I just like shooting with my left. I don't understand.
Yeah, and the common thread here is they're both bad shooters.
Right. With very weird touch too. Like sometimes they'll shoot and it's like, wow, this guy's a nice stroke, and then other times it's just like off to the side, like by a mile.
Yeah, and I mean we're recording. I think is the Hornets game still going, or is it
down 3?
Yeah, so we're recording in the middle of the game right now. But I mean, like his first basket tonight was like a beautiful looking shot. It was a gorgeous 3, but it like didn't come until until like the beginning of the second half, and you wonder what happened, with all the shots before that. And it's just he's not going to have a consistent shot until he works on it this summer. And there's really no way of knowing whether or not, a change in hand is his best way to go about doing that.
I think his best offense was discovered, well, not really discovered, but the Rising Stars Challenge and the first game off the break at Houston. That was like the perfect RJ offense where it's just downhill, get to the rim. He's never going to be
right
like 40% from.
Which is why if Thibodeau is here, you do not want him in charge of the offense because that's going to just neutralize everything that RJ can bring to the table.
Yeah, I think Thibodeau's better if you have like a Derrick Rose type of guy or just somebody that can help create, because otherwise it's half court grinded out offense, which is probably the least appetizing thing after watching this year of ISO ball with guys who shouldn't be playing ISO ball.
Really funny about the Hornets game earlier today too. They announced, they put out a tweet that said that Malik Monk was going to get the first start of his career tonight too, right? Like, that was an actual tweet.
He started last night, and then
was it from yesterday? The tweet was.
Yeah,
I didn't see it until this morning. I thought that they tweeted this morning that Monk was going to get the first start of his career tonight, and then he got suspended immediately after.
I want to know what it was. He's definitely a weed guy.
Yeah, he's definitely a weed guy. But it's you don't get suspended for being caught smoking weed once. I mean, I'm sure he probably is. Weed legal in
no, that's true.
It's not legal. Is
well,
it legal?
I know Russell got popped at LaGuardia with, I forgot how much he had, but nothing really happened to him. So you're right. So it was probably just roids or some form of
because you need like 3. You need at least 3 for you to be suspended. You need to test positively 3 times.
Damn.
So yeah, I mean, usually what happens there is it's just guys just smoke weed. So it's like they kind of get caught once. They don't think they're going to get tested again for a little bit, and then they get hit again with it. So, yeah. And so that's really probably all it really is. But I don't know. Who cares? We're speculating on it at this point.
Hey, he buy low. Buy low. I'd still take him.
Yeah. Marijuana is not legal in North Carolina, by the way.
Shocking.
Yeah, shocking. I can't believe I thought for a second. Man, Illinois is something else right now, let me tell you.
In a good way or bad way?
No, in a good way.
Okay.
Well, at least Chicago. Recreation is a good thing. Anywho, so I guess really to just put a bow on what we got going on tonight, because I don't think there's too much more to go through. We're coming up on that time of the year. The Knicks once again have a lottery pick. It's gonna likely be, I would say it's more likely than not that it's top 7 at the very, very least. We're slotted right now. We are over on NBA Draft.net. You're looking at, they have us projected at about the 5th pick.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where we're at right now, and things are. So we got to start thinking about it. And I, being the chronic procrastinator and also just not a huge college basketball fan, I don't really know much about any of the prospects going in right now. I kind of hear some stuff in passing, and I see what's in front of me on the screen right now, which is just a big list of all of them. So that's why we're so lucky to have Mike Cortez around here, because Mike actually does know what the hell is going on with this stuff. And we're going to be having the draft season pod, which is hosted by him, Jess Reinhardt from the Knicks Wall, and we're going to have Joseph Dardone's on, is doing it too, right?
We'll definitely be on, hopefully as much as possible, but we'll work with Joe's schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, he will definitely be on.
Yeah. Joe is a college guru, ran a site called CBB Today for a while, a bunch of other stuff. You've certainly seen his work. If not, you'll hear from him soon. But to get us prepared for that, to get us ready for that, I'm going to kind of throw it to Mike here and let you kind of go through the list of prospects here. And why don't you kind of give me an opinion on where you think, I'm going to throw out a couple of draft positions after you go through a couple of these, and you're going to let me know who you think the Knicks should draft if they fall in that position.
All right. So first off, I just want to thank God for being so damn nice, because since I've been doing the pod, I've made an effort to watch even more Knicks than I watched in the past, which has kind of took away from my college watching, which I usually like to do, I don't know, about like mid-January. Luckily, the top of this class is international guys. So this year's board, I was just going for like maximum star potential, high floor, because the lack of talent on this roster is frightening. So Killian Hayes from France, I know it's a French guard. Haha. Now this kid's legit. He models his game after Harden. He has like a very Kobe-ish background where he played guys older than him growing up in playgrounds. He moved over to Europe, wanted to come back to the States for high school and college. His father said no, go pro first. He did that, and I think that experience, in addition to molding his game after one of the best scorers of our era, is just, I think it's a home run if he hits, and even if he doesn't hit, I still think he's one of the better options. LaMelo came in second. I know he's probably the fan favorite just because he could put on a show when he's hot. The problem with him is his cold streaks are very noticeable, and I don't know if people are going to be patient enough with him. Same goes for Anthony Edwards, the first college guy on the board. He could...
So yeah, he's probably the name that I hear come up the most at this point, or I would say more at the beginning of the season. But I've heard his stock kind of go up and down here. I'm curious to hear what you think about him.
He's weird. Hasn't been good against the better teams. He's like a bizarro RJ where all of it looks good. It just never looks good at the same time, or rarely does. Like early in the season, I think it was against Michigan State. He scored like 20-something points in the second half, and he looked like an NBA superstar in the making. And then I saw him against Kentucky, and I forgot he was on the floor. He has like Cam Reddish tendencies where last year Cam Reddish would just hide in plain sight. And Edwards does that too, only Edwards doesn't have a Zion or an RJ to help him. So it's made him look worse than he probably actually is. But if we do get him, it's a very good wing. He's interchangeable with RJ. It's something to be happy about. And then the other names to round it out were Cole Anthony. He's kind of been in the mix the whole time. Legacy pick. That's the pick I think they make if they fall. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit, but if they fall outside the top 3, Cole Anthony, I could definitely see like that front office trying to push like, oh, New York, Greg Anthony played for the Knicks type of thing to bring him there. And Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State, no one really knows as much about him as they should, but just think of LaMelo in terms of passing, IQ, shooting. Halliburton gives you all of that without the name. So it's not as sexy.
Yeah, because I know you and Jess especially have been bigging him up for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, he's just smart. Yeah, he's just smart. And it sucks because the few times I saw him live, he was kind of like, eh. And then he hurt his wrist and he's done for the year. So we're not going to really see him again. And that's the problem with this draft class. The top guys are all out of it. Like they're either internationals or their teams stink. Because Georgia's probably NIT bound. Cole Anthony's probably NIT bound, and then Halliburton's hurt. Obi Toppin's probably the only guy I could see rising up, and then the rest are kind of just like a mixed bag of just like meh. Like this draft class isn't as bad as people are saying it is, but it's definitely you have to dig to find the gold.
Obi Toppin's kind of the guy who came out of the blue this season, right? I don't remember seeing him on any boards up until pretty recently, and I mean he rocketed.
Yeah,
up
Joe
right?
actually mentioned him towards on like one of the last draft season episodes. I think I just caught him on great games. He looks like a star to me, but apparently his jumper isn't as wet as I thought it was. So I guess that's more of what's holding him back. And as long as Randall's here, I doubt they're going to go with Toppin, even though he'd be an awesome pick. He's from Brooklyn. Elite name.
Right.
I'm big on basketball names. That's why Killian. Yeah.
That is a really good name.
That is an elite name. And Killian Hayes. Like those are really two strong names.
Killian Hayes is a good one too. Yeah, I've been big on Killian. All right. So let's break it down by position here. And I want you to include here what do you think the Knicks should do with the pick if they end up in the spot here too?
Let's do it.
Let me know what you're thinking about. Trade up, trade down, anything like that. So let's make it easy. Let's start with they land the number 1 overall pick.
I am praying that David Blatt, who we confirmed is still with the team as a consultant, is banging pots and pans outside whoever ends up making this decision and saying, take Killian. Because like I said, this guy has everything you need, I think, to be a good player. And the Knicks need a scorer, and this guy has the potential to be a 20-point scorer, I believe. He shoots close to 90% from the free throw line. He can pass. He can do everything. I think that's the guy you take at 1.
All right, so Golden State gets the number 1 pick. They take Killian Hayes. You get the number 2 pick.
I'm going to cry, and then I'll probably take LaMelo. Like I said, they need a lead guard more than anything. This offense is stagnant, and no matter who the coach is, I don't think LaMelo is capable of playing boring basketball. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's going to be entertaining. It's kind of like, it could be like Jameis Winston, where you don't know what you're going to get, but you know it's going to be something you want to watch.
All right, so I'm gonna go to 3 now too, and I want to know if anything changes at this point for you.
No, if LaMelo's still there, I'll probably still go LaMelo over Edwards, which is kind of risky. Chance to look stupid, but I just don't want a gaggle of guys who are afraid to shoot the basketball or just take poor shots, and I feel like that could happen with Edwards if there's no point guard there. And I'm not sure Alfred's going to be there. Frank is just still hasn't shown enough to be a lead guard. I prefer Frank off the ball, which is another reason I favor LaMelo and Killian. They can handle the ball, and Halliburton as ball handlers. I prefer that right now versus, another wing that could or could not be good.
All right, so at this point, let's talk about like 4 through 6. Like 4 through 6, does anything start up with like trade down scenarios at this point?
Maybe since Halliburton got hurt. If Halliburton wasn't hurt, I would say just grab Halliburton and call it a day. I would at least explore moving down to like 8, 9, depending on what you can get. We still have to see how the rest of the draft shakes out, the draft order shakes out, but if a team with multiple picks wants to move up, or even a player that you can get, I would definitely explore trades after, especially if Killian and LaMelo are off the board, and Edwards. I would definitely try and look, ideally towards the end of the top 10, just so you could still nab someone good, like Isaac Okoro from Auburn, if they can't land a guard, and you want a wing that you know that's going to be decent. I think that's a good move. I heard, I haven't seen enough of him yet. The kid from Israel, Denny Avdija, I'm butchering his name, but like someone like that, I think trading down for that is good. Or even getting Obi, like you said, Obi, that's a tail end guy, depending on what happens, but
it's really interesting. I'm looking at this this one I have right now, and this I'm just on like a random website right now just to get a couple of names in front of me, but they have Killian Hayes all the way down at 16.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that there's going to be a lot of... I think it's pretty fair to say that the predictions across the board for this draft are going to be a bit inconsistent. It seems like the kind of opinion that I've started forming about this is that not a ton of people really agree about who should be drafted where at this point, other than like LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, and like Cole Anthony and being in the top 5.
Yeah, you're going to have to hunt, and the good teams that know how to draft and scout well, they'll find the good players, and the teams that just don't draft well, you'll come up with a dud, and that's what's scaring me a little bit. I really want Leon Rose to get the best possible scouting department he can, because this is the draft. You're going to need it. Next year's, not to look too far ahead, but next year has a clear-cut guy, Cade Cunningham. This year doesn't, but like I said, there are guys with high floors and some with very high ceilings.
Yep. All right, so I think that's enough to give them to get started on here. So we're planning on draft season coming back, most likely not this Sunday, the Sunday that follows. So we'll be, right as you start seeing a little bit more of some of the American players here in these tournaments. Then more and more you'll be getting more familiar, and you'll be able to see maybe what we think the Knicks might end up doing with these. So that's going to be awesome, Mike. We're definitely looking forward to that. But I think that's going to just about take us to the end here tonight. Like I said, make sure you check us out on the knickswall.com. Mike, what do you have coming up? What have you written about lately? Anything we got to plug on the site here?
Just the draft board as we went over. Check that out. Draft season's coming up, and hopefully probably next week, like you said. And just check out the features. We got some good stuff. Quentin's got some good stuff. Harley just posted something on Kevin Knox's Nightmare season, so check that out. It was a good read. What did Quentin's been on fire, but I can't remember his Leon Rose. Quentin wrote about Leon Rose. Zach wrote about Tom Thibodeau. So just check it out. It's a lot of good content. I know it's a slow part of the season, but we're still churning out articles every day. So just give those a read.
We're definitely, as if we weren't this entire season, but we're definitely in the part of the season where the writing is better than the basketball being played.
Oh yeah.
So
you can't question our loyalty.
There are interesting things going on with this team right now. You just got to dig a little bit deeper to find it. We have a bunch of people on the site right now who are dedicated to doing just that. So give them a read. Give us a follow at the Knicks Wall at TKW Podcast. You can follow me at Anthony Corbo. Follow Mike at Cortez Era. Blue Wire Pods on Twitter. Thanks to our sponsor, betonline.ag. And talk to you all next week, people.